The Calgary Police Service has charged the man in relation to Calgary's 8th homicide of 2013. Just before 11:30 p.m. on Saturday, May 4th, 2013, police were called to the 100 block of Auburn Springs Close Southeast. Upon arrival, emergency crews discovered a deceased man. One man was taken into custody without incident at the scene. It is believed that the suspect and the victim met earlier in the afternoon at the victim's residence. Both the suspect and the victim lived in the same neighborhood. As the evening wore on, they went to the suspect's residence where an altercation later took place between two people and one man died as a result. The identity of the victim and cause of death will be released upon completion of an autopsy that is currently underway. Nicholas Rasberry, 30 years, has been charged with second-degree murder. He will appear in court on May 8th, 2013. I will now take your questions.
When you say that they met earlier that day, do you mean for the first time or they met?
Yeah, we believe that they met for the first time earlier in the day. They were neighbors. They spent some time at the victim's residence and then later transitioned over to the suspect's residence.
Any idea what the altercation was about?
One of the things that we're still looking into is the motive. We, as I stated before, we do believe that they met for the first time earlier in the day, spent some time at the victim's residence, and then transitioned over to the suspect's residence.
So where this happened was the suspect's residence?
It was the suspect's residence. That's where the telephone call came from to 911, and that's where the victim was discovered and removed by EMS, where he was pronounced deceased in the ambulance.
Can you talk about what they were doing? How did they meet? Why did they meet?
We believe that the suspect went over to the victim's residence early in the afternoon to introduce himself, and then they continued to associate throughout the day and into the late evening.
So
Alcohol was involved in this situation.
Was there anyone else at home when who placed the 911 call?
The call came from that residence.
Was there anyone else there?
There was one other individual in the residence at the time, but they weren't in the immediate area of the incident.
Do you know if the victim in this case lived alone, had family?
He lived with one other person, and he had just recently moved into the neighborhood.
Is that man, woman, lady?
We believe he lived with his girlfriend.
And that was on the same street? Or just
Yes, on the same street.
Was he a homeowner? Like, did he just purchase the home? Or?
As to specifics in regards to the residence, I'm not sure, but I do know that they moved in several weeks ago.
you said alcohol was involved? You think?
Alcohol was involved.
Yeah. So again, sorry, so they started at the victim's home, like somewhere on the street.
And then transitioned over to they've started out at the victim's residence, spent some time there, and then later in the evening, they transitioned over to the suspect's residence. That's where the telephone call came from, and that's where the victim was discovered by EMS, removed and declared deceased in the ambulance. And that's where the suspect was arrested. That's where the suspect was arrested without incident.
So was he, the release says that he had died on scene. Now, we had heard earlier, or he had died when he was dead when he got there, when crews got there.
He was removed from the residence by EMS, and he was pronounced deceased in the ambulance.
Can you just make any comment about whether the girlfriend of the victim and the other person who made the call, where the suspect was, were they there as well? Were there other people?
There was one other person in the home at the time of the incident, but they were not in the immediate area of the incident.
What was that person's relation to the suspect?
I can't comment on that. It's ongoing investigation.
Is it a woman?
Again, it's an ongoing investigation. At this time, I can't comment on
Did
it.
she call or he called 911? Was it the other person in the home?
The call originated from the residence. That's all I can tell you.
So you can't say the manner of death, stabbing, shooting?
Not at this point. As I stated, the autopsy is ongoing, and until it's completed, we can't comment on cause of death.
Can you explain maybe what second-degree murder is again? Why those charges?
Second-degree murder implies intent without planning and deliberation.
Any weapons seized or recovered?
It's an ongoing investigation. I can't comment on that at this time because of the ongoing nature of the investigation and that the autopsy is still ongoing as well.
Can you comment on the number of people you're speaking to in regarding this case and if you're still...
We've interviewed approximately 4 people in relation to this incident, and they are cooperating with the investigation.
Are you still looking for more?
We're encouraging anybody with information to come forward. We believe we've interviewed people who are specific to this incident, but if anybody has any information, we encourage them to contact Calgary Police Service.
Does the suspect have any prior incidences?
He is not known to police.
Victim known to police?
We don't comment on the victim.
Do you know the age of the victim? Was it that young?
Again, because the autopsy is ongoing, we'll release that information later.
Sorry, just for timing purposes, are you anticipating that coming down later today?
Actually, that'll be probably tomorrow morning.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Is it rewarding to have a case so quickly closed, I mean, in terms of having a suspect charged?
Well, our investigators worked long and hard in this investigation. We have an individual who was arrested during the early stages of the investigation. But of course, that's just one piece of the puzzle. We have a lot of investigative stages to complete before we can get to the point where we can lay a charge.
So you said the people that you're speaking to are cooperating?
They are cooperating with the investigation.
The suspect as well?
Yes.
Did you say it was the victim that recently moved into the neighborhood?
He had recently moved into the neighborhood, the victim, right.